We made it. Oh, man. It's June. I'm so happy to be here, just to have made it. I live all the way up in Hope Township. Has anyone ever visited up by me, the land of make-believe? Yeah. Kind of like where we all live sometimes, right? Kind of feels like that. So good morning. I'm here today to bring you a message from the heart, because I think that's so much of our work, is work that we do from the heart. And I'm here because I believe in you, and because we need you. We need you to bring everything you have every day. And so, just in the interest of making up some time, I'm going to skip this piece, but if you've never seen it, I'm going to make this PowerPoint available, and I hope you watch it, because I was going to begin with a question to challenge your expectations. I was going to begin by asking you, do you think that an elephant can paint a self-portrait? Do you think an elephant could hold a paintbrush in that trunk and paint a self-portrait, a portrait of an elephant? Who thinks so? Have you seen this video? I hope that you... It is amazing. It's amazing because it defies what we believe is possible. So today, I'm really here to talk to you about great expectations, about what we believe is possible. Because I think that that's, for a lot of us, where we get stuck. I also believe that if you find someone who can do something better than you can, you should just let them do it. Because they're better than you. And I don't know if you've ever seen this. This is Dalton Sherman. He was 9 years old when he stepped in front of 20,000 educators in Dallas, and he did the welcome greeting for the teachers at the beginning of the year. And I want to use his video, a piece from the video, to set the tone for our conversation for today. So let's give our attention to little Dalton Sherman.
Believe in me. Do you believe in me? Do you believe that I can stand up here fearless and talk to over 20,000 of you? Charles Rice Learning Center. Do you believe in me? Come on, I can't hear you. That's right, they do. Because here's the deal. I can do anything, be anything, create anything, dream anything, become anything. Because you believe in me. And it rubs off on me. Let me ask you a question, Dallas ISD. Do you believe in my classmates? Do you believe that every single one of us can graduate ready for college or the workplace? You better, because next week we're all showing up in your schools. All 157,000 of us. And what we need from you is to believe that we can reach our highest potential. No matter where we we come from, whether it's sunny South Dallas, whether it's Pleasant Grove, whether it's Oakley, or North Dallas, or West Dallas, or wherever, you better not give up on us. No, you better not. Because, as you know, in some cases, you're all we've got. You're the ones who feed us, who wipe our tears, who hold our hands, or hug us when we need it. You're the ones who love us when sometimes it feels like no one else does. And when we need it the most, don't give up on my classmates. Do you believe in your colleagues? Do you? I hope so, because they came to your school because they wanted to make a difference too. Believe in them, trust them, and lean on them when times get tough. We all know we kids can sometimes make it tough. Am I right? Can I get a amen? So whether you're a counselor or a librarian, a teacher assistant, or work in the front office, whether you serve up meals in the cafeteria, my favorite, or help keep the halls clean, or whether you're a teacher or a principal, we need you. Please believe in your colleagues and they'll believe in you. Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe that what you're doing is shaping not just my generation, but that of my children and my children's children? There's probably easier ways to make a living, but I want to tell you on behalf of all the students in Dallas, we need you. We need you now more than ever. Believe in yourself. Finally, do you believe that every child in Dallas needs to be ready for college or the workplace? Do you believe that Dallas students can achieve? We need you, ladies and gentlemen. We need you to know that what you're doing is the most important job in the city today. We need you to believe in us, in your colleagues, in yourselves, and in our goals. If you don't believe, well, I'm not going there. I want to thank you for what you do for me and for so many others. Do you believe in me? Because I believe in me, and you've helped me get to where I am today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
9 years old. Did you see? He didn't even have a teleprompter. And he stepped in front of 20,000 people. And he asked the most important questions there are to ask. He said, do you believe in me? Do you believe in my classmates? Do you believe in your colleagues? Do you believe in you? See, I don't think often enough we wrestle with those questions, those most important questions. Because what we believe, we manifest. What you believe becomes what you achieve. Because in countless subtle and not so subtle ways, you make it so. Look at what he said. This was years ago, before we had the Common Core, and there was that phrase we used probably all too often about graduating all students ready for college and career. Graduating all students. This is what we say now all the time. Years ago, he asked that question. And he stepped in front of those educators and he challenged them to wrestle with their own beliefs. One of the things that I have learned is that your beliefs shape your outcomes. And many of us don't even realize that we are the obstacles standing in the way of our students' achievement. We are. In her book, Fierce Conversation, Susan Scott says the problem named is the problem solved. And many times when we look to talk about what's possible for our kids, we focus on their deficits, we focus on what we don't have, we focus on parents and maybe what they do or don't do. We focus on things that lie outside of ourselves. And what I've come to believe is our expectations shape our outcomes, because what we believe shapes what we attribute students' achievement to and what we're willing to do about it. And so my goal today is to talk to you about this idea of expectations and how they influence our outcomes. When I was principal in Mount Olive, we were engaged in a project that was really designed to improve the outcomes for children with special needs. So the superintendent asked me to help lead that effort. And so one of the first things we did is just put the truth on the table. You know, so many of us don't start with our truth. Put it on the table and invite others to be curious. And so I set the data out and I said, tell me, what do you see? So we started to look at our results, and at the time, our performance of students with special needs is represented by what you see in the blue bars. Look at the height of the blue bars in relation to the red. The red bars represent what the state said was AYP, where we were supposed to be. So what you can see is in 4th grade to 8th grade and 11th grade is a difference. And when I set data before people, I try very hard not to make the judgments for them. I invite them to be curious. I invite them to make observations and say, what do you notice? So what do we see as our performance levels in relation to where we're supposed to be? And what seems to happen over time? And granted, these aren't the same kids, but when we look at where we are compared to where kids need to be, at least in language arts, we see that we seem to trend upward. But what is of concern to me, and perhaps to you if you were there in that district, was that when we look at the performance of our children in 4th grade, that only about a third of them were achieving proficiency. So I was curious and I said, well, how might this pattern compare to mathematics? What do you notice? Is it the same or is it different, the trend? It's the opposite, right? So in elementary school, about 61% of the students are at or near proficiency, and then it falls away over time. And so I wanted to better understand what lies beneath the surface. What may be shaping our student outcomes other than their disabilities? And so I asked people to respond to a survey. I said, tell me the degree to which you agree with these statements. And here's the first one. I believe that our system of special education is effective. I just wanted to know, what do you think? And we asked this of all of the faculty, administrators, child study team, of teachers, of paraprofessionals. Tell me what you think. What do you notice? Look at elementary school. 75%, 76.75% said, yep, we got it going on. So how do you reconcile that with what I just showed you about performance? What might that reveal? So these are the questions that we would follow up next. I asked another question. Tell me the degree to which you agree with this. I believe that if we changed the way we worked with our special needs students, that more of them could achieve, that they would achieve at higher levels. Tell me what you think. And here's what we found. So about 50% of the educators at the elementary level were willing to say that if we work in different ways, our students may achieve more. And let's look at the last one. I think we need to sit with this for a moment. I believe that the majority of special education students can be proficient. So what do you think the implications are when only a third of all of the educators who serve our elementary youngsters even believe that proficiency is possible? How does that change the way we plan, the way we teach, the way we challenge, the way we support? I believe it affects those things in countless ways, and that the kids know. Always come back to Dalton Sherman's questions. Do you believe in me? What does this data suggest the teachers, the educators, the leaders believe about the students, and how does this influence our outcomes? And how is it that over time it rises slightly, but still throughout the district? One of the truths we need to name, one of the factors we need to face, is that perhaps our expectations are shaping our outcomes. So how does that affect what our students believe? Pat, can you help me? We're going to take a quick look, hopefully, at a video that's very old, but what it demonstrates is pertinent today.
Will you please go and get that cup and put your name on it and keep it at your desk? Blue-eyed people are wasteful. Okay, you want to be timed this morning?
Yeah.
I use Orton Gillingham Phonics. We use the card pack. And the children, the brown-eyed children, were in the low class the first day, and it took them 5.5 minutes to get through the card pack. The second day, it took them 2.5 minutes. The only thing that had changed was the fact that now they were superior people.
I thought you were going to give me
You went faster than I ever had anyone go through the card pack. Why couldn't you get them yesterday?
We had collars on.
You think the collars kept you?
I just keep thinking about those collars.
Oh.
I could get rolling around.
Oh, and you couldn't think as well with the collars on.
Well,
4 minutes and 18 seconds.
I know we weren't going to make it.
How long did it take you yesterday?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. How long did it take you today?
4 minutes and 18 seconds.
What happened?
One down.
Why? What were you thinking of?
This.
I hate today.
How do you do? I hate too.
I don't know if you could hear that. Let me share this data with you. And I know that my whole approach to doing this work all centers on the data, because I believe that the loudest voice in any room should be the data, because truly that reveals our truth. So what happened is that she began this experience that was intended to teach students about discrimination. And she said to the students one day that, one of the things that she found out is that blue-eyed people are superior. And that really they're much smarter, they're better people, they're kinder, they take more care, they're more responsible. So she attributed all of these things to blue eyes. And then she watched what happened. And so she found in one day, in one single day, by just what the teacher said about their eye color, the students began to behave exactly how she described. And what do you think happened for the brown-eyed students that day? They became all the things that she believed as well. She said, well, they tend to be rude, they tend to be careless, they tend to be slower, they tend to be all of those things. And so I show you that little segment of the card pack because what that says to our educators is this: look at the facts. Look at what happened to students' achievement from one day to the next. When they went from believing they were superior because they had blue eyes to when she corrected them and said, actually, I made a mistake, it's brown eyes who are superior, what she found is from one day to the next, one group of students' performance went from 5.5 minutes to 2.5 minutes. The other group went from 3 minutes to 4 minutes and 18 seconds. Did the students change? Did the teacher change? Did any of the innate capacities of the children change? What changed? What changed was how they believe about themselves. What they believe they are possible, which was shaped entirely by the words the teacher offered them. That's all. That's all. And look at the effect that that has. So here's what I want you to wonder. In what ways, subtle or not so subtle, do we shape the outcomes of our kids? Is it maybe because certain students have to go to that room? Students are pulled to the side. Students get messages that say, you're less capable. And so I really wonder, when we look at our performance of our special needs students or any of our struggling learners, to what degree is that performance exactly what we expect? Because trust me when I tell you, they're watching you. They're paying attention. They look in your eyes. And if any of you have ever had a moment, had an experience with anyone who you know doesn't believe in you, you know how that feels. You know how, they never have to say that to you. You know it. And it shapes exactly how you behave, and it shapes what you get. So, what expectations do your educators hold for your students? What do you believe about kids if you track them? Might that have something to do with what we found in my middle school when we introduced tracking in 7th grade? You know what we found? The high kids rose, the middle kids languished, and the low kids lost ground in relation to themselves. And so we put them in groups because we said that will help us help you better. We can differentiate, we can tailor instruction, and maybe our expectations. So in what ways do the decisions that we make as an organization, as a school, determine the outcomes that we get for... These are the insidious things that have a huge effect on our outcomes for kids and what they believe about themselves. So Dalton Sherman says, do you believe in me? What do our educators believe about our students? Do you believe in your colleagues? And do you believe in yourself? And I believe that what you believe about yourself and your kids affects what you ask of them. One of the conclusions to which I have come is the same that Paul Bambrick Santoyo offers in his book, Leveraged Leadership. He says that the level of mastery that students achieve is in direct relation to the complexity of the questions. If you ask knowledge level questions, you get surface level knowledge. That's all. See, I think one of the things that impedes the performance of our special needs students or struggling learners is we ask them low-level questions because we believe that that's the best they can answer. And we don't wish to damage their self-esteem. And so as long as we stay in that place, that's as far as they come. I attended a workshop once by a national expert on special education, and he asked this question: to what extent is our students' performance a function of their disability or dyspedagogia? Meaning they're just poorly taught. I think these are profound questions for us to wrestle with. And so what do you expect, and how does that manifest in the very questions you ask of your kids? And so with the Common Core and the PARC assessments, we see the instructional shifts that it asks of us, that we use text, that we have students read text at the appropriate level of text complexity. And we ask them challenging questions that rely on understanding and application. So if you were to look at the questions set before your students, do they look more like this? The principals just proposed that we cancel the field day and provide more time for test prep. Yeah. Write a letter to the principal expressing your opinion. Right? This is not unfamiliar. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Without any reference back to text or what an author said. And in the past, these are the kind of questions we asked. And see, here's the bullet point I really want to point out. It's the one at the bottom. It says, use facts, examples, and other evidence to support your claim. And for those of you who are young, for our future teachers in the room, here's what we actually taught kids to do. We said, when you're going to answer this question, you need facts and evidence. And since you don't have any, what did we say? Make it up. Just make it up. You know, I've been at the State Department about 2 years. The commissioner has not yet said, you don't have any facts, just make them up. People seem to have this thing, you know, we like accuracy, correctness. Just make them up, we said. And that's different from the kind of questions that kids are going to be asked today. So this is a 7th grade item. Anyone here teach 7th grade? I can usually tell because they have a discernible twitch. That, you know, when we teach those beautiful, wonderful children, the middle of middle school, help us, help them. Any of you who do not teach them, have you ever encountered a 7th grader? Sometimes they get loose. They're in the mall. They're out. They're probably in middle school somewhere, right here in Middletown. So one of the things that I wondered when we looked at what PARC asks of the kids is to what degree will my students even have the grit, the tenacity, the patience, the perseverance to read the 3 texts. 3 texts. Well, actually, it's 2 texts and a video that students are going to have to work with independently and on demand during the assessment. And so we need to take a look at what's going to be asked of kids so that we are helping them get to that place. One of the books that I've read recently that really talks about the importance of grit and tenacity is Paul Tuff's book, How Children Succeed. And I think we should be interested, we should be curious about the conditions and the characteristics that keep people in the game and that cause other kids to quit. And so when we look at the questions, that really reveals something about our expectations of students. So in mathematics, are we still asking students to demonstrate understanding with questions like this? Shade the slices of pizza, shade the pieces of pie. That may be good for showing their understanding of part to whole, but we can't stop there. Because a real understanding of fractions requires that you can demonstrate that you understand that a fraction has a place on the number line. And so when we look at the questions, they really are the key. They elicit for us an understanding that we must teach for understanding. That we need to teach students how to think about the concepts and apply them to answer questions like this. This question says 2 fractions have different numerators and denominators. Can the 2 fractions have the same location on the number line? Explain. 3rd grade. 3rd grade. This is the critical thinking we've been talking about for years. But if the proof is in the pudding, if the proof is on the page, then we have to look to see if what's on kids' desks look like this or this. We have to count the number of times that the word that you see at the end of this prompt appear. Explain. That's a changing word. That's a changing word. What does Grant Wiggins teach us about the word explain? He says if you can explain, you understand. So here's the opportunity to look at our assessments, to assess our assessments and see if they determine whether kids can pick the right answer or explain their understandings. Your assessments are the key. In fact, when I was a principal, I was so convinced that assessment was the critical leverage point to improve student achievement that in my final year, I stepped before the staff on opening day and I said, this year I am going to collect every assessment that results in a grade. How do you think that went over? You know the meeting that takes place in the parking lot after the meeting? They're like, we hate her, right? God, she's such a witch. Always up in our business. Well, no, your business is my business. And what I learned, the key, something you could take away today, other than the idea of expectations, is this. If you want to know why you're getting what you're getting, look at what you're asking. Because the answer to improving student achievement is the questions. The answer is the questions. So when we look at the Common Core, when we look at the PARCC assessment, there is an opportunity for us to have the Oprah aha moment we don't have often when we just look at the standards. The questions are the key. What is the level of difficulty? What is the cognitive demand of your questions? What is the nature of the demonstration of learning? Meaning, do kids have to explain how they know? And just what is the format? Those all offer you opportunities to take a look. And how are we going to get kids there? Particularly when we talk about our struggling learners, we talk about scaffolding, where we're going to scaffold. And we get really good often at building these supports around the people. We elevate those scaffolds all around kids so that we surround them with the support that they need. My question is, while we build it, and even when we admire it, the question that I'm asking is, do we ever take it down? Because we have to be just as purposeful as taking it back down as we are about putting it up. But so many times, often with good intention, we help kids into helplessness. And life presents to us challenges. And students need to be independent, effective, and efficient learners. They need to be able to do this work on their own and on demand. Grant Wiggins says that if we added these three words, these three little words to the end of every SWABOT, students will be able to... Have you ever had students... Dr. Severns, really, what is this SWABOT? I even asked Siri. Even Siri doesn't know. What is SWABOT? Students will be able to blah, blah, blah on their own. How would that change the way we teach? Because the objective is not to deliver that, but if teaching is transfer, meaning now you can do it, then we have to think differently. We have to consider the gradual release of responsibility. We have to understand that it is the struggle that causes learning. And how do we keep the kids in the game? How do we cause kids to think about doing this work on their own? So I attended this workshop, as I said, by Grant Wiggins. He said, well, here's something maybe you could do. Well, and I just changed the wording a little bit. I put in I statements, and I said, I would do this. I would put in a classroom this on a poster. I would send it home with homework because I would want kids to be mindful of the difference between how much help they want and how much they need and how much they get. So what if we just provided students with a strategy or a tool so that do you want to take a picture? I wore this. No? So imagine if after doing an assignment, kids wrote down if it's a 5 or a 1. A teacher said to me, you know what I would do, Tracy? I would flip the numbers so the kids get 5 points for doing it all by themselves. Do you like that? It's brilliant, and it's so simple. And kids could graph their own results. They could take a look at, weaning themselves off the teacher. And I think this would serve our kids well. And when I've shared this with teachers, they all think of much better ideas than I. They said, we're going to send this home with a letter to parents. And in the homework planner, we want students to write the number that corresponds to how much help they needed on their homework. Because this is about causing kids to be able to do this work independently and on their own. I read this book recently, The Smartest Kids in the World and How They Got That Way. Anyone else? Amanda Ripley? Very interesting book. And it's a book that questions many of our assumptions, don't you think? About what we believe is. Here's an example. She talks about in Finland that about 50% of students during the course of their educational career will receive special education services for a short time. Because you see, what they believe that special education isn't a condition, isn't a permanent part of you. It's a circumstance. It's a disconnect between what you already know and what you need to know in this case. And so they help the students, and then they set them free. Wow. Think about that. Connect that to the idea of expectations. And the students who we say, you are special ed, you are with her, you're in that. When I was a special ed teacher, I taught in a renovated book closet. I've come out of the closet since then. But what did it mean to my students every day that they walked in there? I think those have significant impact on kids. And so this is interesting. When you read, you understand how things can be different in other places. It opens up that idea of perspective and possibility. And the park philosophy centers on expectations. Here's a link right in the park accessibility manual, something that I fear that far too many people have not read. Because every one of our students are going to be able to use accessibility features. But if you don't know of them, if the students don't practice with them, to what degree will that be a confounding factor on their performance? So there are features that all kids will get to use. There's features that some will get to use. And there's features that a few will get to use if it's in their 504 and IEP. But you know what? We need to know that. Because we need to build for each child a personal needs profile, a PNP. So when we look at that, and we understand what's available to kids, Park says where we need to begin in making decisions about the features is with our expectations. This is specifically from the Park work. And in the 5-step decision-making process, they say, look what they begin with. Expectations. Expect students to achieve the standards. And so the question is, how do we close the expectation gap between what we believe kids can achieve and what they do? To change the space. See, I think we talk often about the achievement gap, but what about the expectation gap? When students walk in our room and we know things about them, to what extent does that affect how we plan, how we teach, the questions we ask, and the feedback we provide? Because I think it makes all the difference in the world, and I think the students know. So if you were to ask me, what do we need to know? What do we need to do differently to change outcomes? I think if we taught more like House approaches medicine, we would be far more successful. Raise your hand. Have you ever watched House? Okay, put your hand. Raise your hand if you think Hugh Laurie's hot. Okay, you don't have. No, okay, right? Yeah. So, fine. So, but think about the show. Think about the show. Someone comes in with some bizarre thing, like, I don't know, his legs coming out of his head or something like, oh, I don't know. So what happens? Do they say, well, it's Tuesday, and on Tuesday we give these, like, I don't know, sodium something drip or Viagra or something like that. Give him that. If he doesn't respond, it's his fault. No. They go in and they look like, oh my gosh. The first thing they try to do is figure out what's the problem. What's the problem? Check this, do this, put it in the machine. They keep checking. And then they get together, not alone. They get together with their colleagues, the other interns, and they write all over the whiteboard. Could it be this? It could be this. I don't know. And then they go try that, and they go in and they make it, and they try that, and they go, it didn't work. We'll try that. They try that. It is the relentless pursuit of health. Do we do that? Like, let's just start by speaking. Too often, we say to kids, this is how I teach. See, I believe that what is intended to be special about special education is if you don't learn the way I teach you, I'll teach you the way you learn. And I think that all students should be provided with that kind of special education, where we broaden our repertoire, where we are relentless in our pursuit of student learning. And really, in the end, can we say that there has been teaching if there's been no learning? I mean, after all, what is the evidence of our work? It should be learning. And so, what if we worked in different ways in our PLCs? What if we sought to uncover, no matter what it took, no matter how many times, the problem, the obstacles that interfere with the learning, solve that, and then go on and say, now you can go back. Let's think about teaching more like House. You know, we come equipped to do this work. We've got our head, we've got our heart, and we've got our hands. And I say, use them. Reach out to kids. Teach them in a way that conveys that you believe in them. Teach in a way that you believe in yourself, that you can be like House. The relentless pursuit of student learning, and believe in your colleagues, because House never works alone. It's got the team. When you engage the team and you approach kids with all the faith in the world that they can be successful, and you believe in you with that relentless pursuit of learning, then we're going to make amazing things happen. I believe in us. I believe in us, I believe in the work, and I agree with Dalton Sherman that this work that we do is the most important work that anyone can do. And I thank you for your service to kids. Thank you, and I wish you all the best today.